Welcome to this week's leadership video. Perhaps some of you are wondering, why is he wearing that ugly Hawaiian shirt? Well, this past Sunday I had a conversation with Tessa Williams, and she was talking to me about the fact that I should be wearing this Hawaiian shirt, a different Hawaiian shirt, but that she was going to get me one, in fact, and the reason is because I always wore Hawaiian shirts. I explained to her that that's not true. It's been years since I wore a Hawaiian shirt. I believe on a Sunday morning, it's probably been 5 or 7 years. Some of you who are relatively new to Northridge might say, I don't think I've ever seen Dan in a Hawaiian shirt. Well, what's this have to do with leadership? Well, even though it's been 5 or 7 years since I've worn Hawaiian shirts on Sunday morning, because I used to all the time, in Tessa's mind, I have a reputation. That which I did in the past impacts how she thought of me today. And I think that's really important for leaders to understand, because leaders sometimes forget that what we do impacts our reputation and then impacts how people look at us in the future. So you may be looking at things that you do and say, well, you know what, that really, what's the point? What's that to me? I was talking to a young man this week and explaining to him my philosophy and to a large extent, I think, the church's philosophy on pastors, directors going out with people of the opposite gender. And we know that that's typical and normal maybe in the business world, but for those of us on staff, we've said, you know what, we're not going to do that. We're not going to go to lunch. And this guy was telling me how idiotic that was. That made no sense at all, he explained. He says, we worry too much about what other people think. And see, my explanation to him was the fact that maybe when you're out for lunch, out for a meal with someone of the opposite gender, and maybe you're discussing your small group, or maybe you're discussing some aspect of ministry, and you're out there, and somebody who knows you and knows your spouse walks by and sees you there and says, that's not their spouse. I wonder what they're doing going to dinner. Well, Dennis Prager once said that people connect the dots in the most pathological way possible in the absence of information. So what we do, our philosophy, certainly my philosophy, is that I don't want to put myself in a position where others might question what I'm doing. And the reason for that is because in 2 Corinthians, it says, 2 Corinthians chapter 5 at verse 20, he writes, we are therefore Christ's ambassadors. Christ's ambassadors, as though God were making his appeal through us. See, the truth of the matter is that when we go out into the world, whether you are going to work or whether you're going to talk to your neighbors, they are watching you. They're looking at you and saying, do you know what? This guy says he's a Christian. This woman says she's a Christian, but I don't know. They drink an awful lot. They're really hung up on money. They're, grumpy with their kids. I'm not sure they're faithful with their spouse. There's all kinds of things. What's our reputation with those around us? Paul was writing to Timothy in 1 Timothy chapter 3, and he's giving a list of the requirements for leadership. And one of them is that leaders are to have a good reputation with those outside the church. You see, what's our reputation? When you go to work, when you talk to your neighbors, maybe even when you talk to people around the church, what's your reputation with them? Now, when I'm done with this video, I'm going to go get rid of this shirt so nobody sees me in it. But the truth is It's not very important if I have a reputation that I wear Hawaiian shirts all the time. But it is significant if people, when they think of Dan, they say he's a guy who, you know what, I don't trust him. He's a guy who doesn't have any integrity. He's a guy who, why in the world is he looking over the church's money? He's the most poorly managed money person I know. So whatever that case is, what you want to do in your house, in your home, in your business, is develop a great reputation. A reputation of integrity. Do we care what other people think? The answer is absolutely. Absolutely I care. And the reason I care is because Jesus Christ has called us to be ambassadors of his. An ambassador is one who goes somewhere else, but they speak for another person. The U.S. ambassadors to different countries, when they go speak in those countries, when they go speak to the delegation and the leaders of other countries, it is as they are speaking for the president. It is as if they are speaking for the United States of America. Well, you and I are called to be ambassadors for Jesus Christ. That when we speak, people say, you know what, that's what Christ would say. They are people of integrity. They are people of honesty. They are people of great character. Friends, if you're struggling with any of those things right now, if you're struggling with your reputation, boy, I just encourage you to spend time in prayer. Find a mentor. Find someone who can come alongside you and help you. Sometimes we'll never get over the reputation. But you know what? In Jesus Christ, all things are new. We are now building our reputation. I pray this week that you will do the things that builds a reputation, that you will truly be able to be an ambassador for Jesus Christ. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.